Welcome out to the Nerd Effect Podcast. We are on episode number 16, and today is a special one for you fine people. We have a special guest with us tonight that we will soon introduce here in a sec, but first, let's introduce ourselves. I am one of your hosts, Dustin Vancouver, and I am joined by my three cohorts.
Michael Morgan.
Mason Ireland.
Mickey Prindle.
And our special guest for the evening,
Scott Morton,
who is here to peddle his wares, if you will. But he's a sound designer working on a special Kickstarter project, which we will go more into detail as soon as we get past our little news segment here. But we wanted to introduce him at the top of the show because we're hopefully going to get some feedback from him on some of our news topics. So I think it'd be fun to have a fifth person in on board on it.
Cool.
Yay.
Woohoo! Yay! All right, let's get to the top. Let's start with... I'm going to kick out mine real quick just because it's probably one of the more appalling things I've probably seen, and it's just one of those...
I'm still angry from reading it yesterday.
Let's get the rage out first, and we'll end on
Yeah, we'll end on a positive note. Some douchebag, and I'm just going to say it only takes one piss-poor bastard to ruin the party. Decided that... I don't know if it happened opening night, but it was definitely within the first couple of days, I think.
I believe it was.
But
it was opening night.
As some of you know, the PlayStation 3 now has the ability... Four. Sorry, God, jeez.
The NES now has the Commodore 64. It's just been launched.
Those Ataris you've been reading about.
The NES 2. Sony PlayStation 4 has the ability to share and stream through the Twitch service.
And also put in an overlay of the person
playing via the eye.
Yes.
And some jackass decided that his wife had fallen asleep while he was playing games or something.
He was passed out drunk, is what it sounded like they were drinking.
And he just thought he thought it would be a good idea to strip his wife naked on the camera, and then I think it went for about 30 minutes before somebody at Twitch was like, no, and then shut the switch off.
Right. I say from what I heard, like at first he just like pulled up her shirt and bra.
Yeah, it was,
and it was like that for like 15 minutes, and then the camera went black temporarily for like a minute or two, and then it came back for like there were 15, 20 minutes of her being completely naked.
Yeah, and Nikki's got her rage face on.
I'm so angry. How the hell this guy managed to get married in the first place when he clearly is just a giant douchebag idiot? Blows my mind. Ass
it's funny because
Fucktard is a good one too.
Yeah.
There's a picture of the guy on here too, and he doesn't exactly look like the most.
He doesn't look like a winner.
Yeah.
No. I mean, he's clearly not, because any asshole that does that to his wife with all the internets to see, oh God, I hope he got a divorce.
If there's not a follow-up
fast.
story about a divorce after this,
oh, God. And he would have no leg to stand on.
No.
Because
the evidence is out there.
Yeah. Kind of like the truth.
How many witnesses were around when that happened?
A bazillion witnesses saw this guy being a giant raging douche nozzle. I can't even talk, I'm so mad.
That's okay. I understand.
So we were discussing making a Rock'em Sock'em Robot fixture.
So
Punch him.
Just tape his face to the front of it.
So obviously, you're signing a disclaimer when you sign into Twitch on PS4, right? You can see anything.
Well, I mean, it's got to be the general rules of don't be an idiot. I mean,
I watch some Twitch streams. Like I don't go to just random streams, but for the most part, most people on Twitch, even if they're showing themselves live playing the game, they're not doing stupid stuff like this. I mean, most people on Twitch are pretty decent about, I mean...
The worst is usually swearing.
Is it sort of like a chat roulette situation, or is it a...
No, you can choose what room you're going into.
Yeah.
It could be that the fact that it's on a console now kind of is opening it up to that audience that wouldn't use Twitch.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. And
the bar has been lowered.
Exactly.
Drastically.
Yeah,
and they still didn't meet it.
So the main consequences to this is now Twitch and Sony are totally like 5 seconds away from reneging on the whole being able to share PS4 as a stream on Twitch. Which was one of its main selling points when it was put out. So,
yeah. Again, it's isolated douchat that causes the problem. It's because
Douchery.
I'm sure there's thousands, tens of thousands of streams going on right now from PS4s all around the world that are perfectly fine, that no one's having a problem with. It's just, doing commentary, playing the game, that are, that's what Twitch is for. But, you don't
hear about those.
You don't hear about those because they don't cause any problems.
I'm sure the majority of people keep their clothes on, but,
Yeah. And it's just, you get this one jerk who can spoil the party for everyone.
People like him are the reason we can't have nice things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy just occasionally, if I'm not really in the mood to game or watch something that's pre-recorded media of some type, I'll throw on a game I like on Twitch. I'll throw on Dota or MechWarrior Online and just watch some guys play for a while, because that is, as a gamer, watching other people game is interesting to me. I like the idea of esports. So, but if they go in, you got to worry about guys like this ruining it. They're going to have to find a way to kill the streams if something like that happens. Or maybe on the PS4 they just make it so the eye doesn't work, so you can't see the person. You can still have them talking, but just have it so they can't use the eye to make a window of themselves.
Yeah, the visual recognition tech is quite a bit higher, so they just need to check that you're taking your own clothes off, right? And problem solved, right?
Right. Well, I don't know about specifically the eye, because I haven't heard as much about it, but I know that with the new Kinect, you can just Xbox on.
Right.
Do its normal, talk to it, and it'll answer you and call you Dave and be really scary. But, if you're just in front of it, if you're the only person in front of it, and, you have a sign in on that Xbox, it will sign you in just by looking at your face. Because
I've seen that commercial where the girl walks up behind her boyfriend and her Xbox is like, "Hey, how's it going?
I know you."
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can sign.
Could be like, "Hey, you're naked. Maybe put some clothes on."
Yeah, there is the possibility that I'm sure the
X-Bone just got an X-Bone.
I bet no one's made that joke.
No.
Well, the Wii reminds you to go outside and play. Maybe they need a console that reminds you to put your clothes on, because nobody wants to see you strip your wife.
Yeah.
Or yourself, for that.
Or yourself.
Or yourself, for that matter.
But, at least he didn't strip himself. He was
not
an attractive man, yeah.
But, I think that they could probably do something where, even just simple color recognitions to...
You're all one tone.
You're all one tone.
Are you wearing weird clothes?
I'm not turning this on. I'm not turning the eyes oh, you're all one color, not looking.
Yeah.
Little lens flap comes down.
It's like when you walk down the street, you see that person walking from the distance. You're like, are they wearing a flesh-toned shirt or no shirt? Okay, no, it's a flesh-toned shirt. We're cool. So that might get...
but err on the side of caution.
Yeah. Always, please.
More news.
All right. I'm gonna just real quick, just because it kind of follows up with our next gen gaming thing that we did a few weeks ago. I think it was one of our within our first 5 shows, I think.
Yeah.
So the inevitability, because I was talking about it and I said it needed to happen, was that an advertisement had leaked out in Europe about the PS4 being bundled with a PS Vita. Right. Which, yay.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they just didn't do that in the first place, but...
yeah.
But Europe's going to be the market for it. It's supposed to be out before Christmas. I'm hoping it'll
make its way over here.
Here ASAP. And if you do a 3-way bundle with it with the PS Vita TV, then you pretty much have a guarantee buy from me.
I thought they already had a guaranteed buy from you anyway, because it was a PlayStation.
They do. 4. I'm a PlayStation fanboy. But I like the fact that it comes with the Vita, and that's A-okay with me. So I just wanted to put that out there. Hopefully we'll see it at least post-Christmas. Maybe we'll see it 2014, I hope. Anyway. Mike.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us how Intel can turn Android into Windows?
Yeah. So, basically, Intel is working on a way to turn the Android operating system into an actual OS for computers.
It's called Linux. It's already there.
Well, yeah, but converting, you know what I mean.
With Windows overlays.
Yeah. So, so basically they're working on a 64-bit version of Android OS that's they're looking at having a window configuration so that applications that you're used to using on like tablets and phones, you can still use on a computer. And it's just instead of having a full screen up, it's going to be in individual windows for the applications. So it looks like it's going to have a lot of flexibility and the way to be able to use it that way.
It sounds like you just described Windows 8.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Or
yeah.
Ubuntu.
Only owned by Google.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or the
Basically,
Ubuntu OS.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
Yeah,
right?
the main thing, main reason I brought it up as my news story is because it's a very serious attempt at bringing Android to PCs as a way to compete with Microsoft. And there's a pretty big demand for it. I don't think they're going to necessarily replace Windows.
I've seen...
Competition makes
But it
cooler
could-
things, though.
Yeah, but
So
Android, I think, could
are they thinking
take
of,
a big chunk of the market from Microsoft.
they thinking of keeping it open? Unlike, because Windows, it seems like they're going more towards the App Store approach, right? That Apple does.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's going to be Android OS like we know it, from what I'm seeing anyway, as far as the way it's working on tablets and phones and the like. But it'll be also able to work in a PC environment where we have some additional, things added in to allow it to work in a PC environment and be able to work basically like you'd be able to use your Windows computer. The main market that I'm seeing so far, that from what they were talking about in the article, was corporate usage. So you have corporate PCs that individual workers are using and having that software on it rather than using Windows machines. Which also you can make a PC with a lot lower hardware requirements running Android. So it's a little bit more cost effective that way if they do get it off the ground. Yeah. And you don't need Windows 8 for every Dick, Joe, and Tom you got in your office,
So since this is being produced by Intel, does that hurt them as far as building normal PCs that are made by Windows or like any other PC maker?
I don't think so.
No. I would say one of the things about Android, the way it's currently built, is that it's meant to work primarily on ARM processors, which pretty much every phone and tablet use.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas one of the big things they're working on in the conversion is getting it so it works on the x86 line of processors, the 32 and 64-bit full power Intel processors, not like their Atom processors, which is an ARM processor basically.
Right.
So I don't remember if the Atom is based off of ARM or not. I think it is, but it's a low power processor, like an ARM processor.
Yeah, my netbook uses Atom processor.
Right.
But it runs Windows 7. Well, Windows 7 Starter.
Right.
Wink, wink. I don't know what that means, but
it means it's the stripped down Windows 7.
All I know is it means is that I cannot change my wallpaper.
Really?
Really?
It's a total
it's a weird
douchebag
feature
move.
to take away.
Microtransaction.
I know. Don't say that. They'll say, "Hey, that's a good idea."
You want to open up this function? $25.
Oh God! Like in-app purchases, in-netbook purchases.
But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of. I think Windows is going to start seeing a lot more competition in the coming years because more people are not necessarily programmers, but are more computer savvy than have been ever in the past. And as those of us who grew up with computers in our lives are aging, and we're having kids, those kids are now growing up with computers, and I don't think Windows's grip is going to remain as strong as it was because, like, if I was not a PC gamer, I would no longer have Windows on my computer. I would still have a computer. I would still use it for everything else, but it would be running Linux. Like my laptop runs Linux, my desktop runs Windows because I game on my desktop. I don't game on my laptop. So, and Apple OS has come back strong. Too closed for my personal taste. And then you have Intel working on modifying Android. You have Ubuntu OS, which Ubuntu is trying to push into both the phone and the tablet market with their OS. There's going to be a lot more competition. Things are going to change in the next few years. I see there becoming a lot more competition for our mind share, essentially, in what devices we use. Because now, right now with smartphones, you basically have two real choices, which is Apple and Android. Yeah, there's Windows phones, but yeah, when was the last time you saw someone that owned one?
Every time I get a call from somebody with a Windows phone, I'm like, I'm so sorry you purchased a Windows phone. They're horrible.
But, and you also have Samsung working on Tizen, which is a full-featured Android OS. Or not Android, sorry, Linux OS. Like Ubuntu. And with the Ubuntu tablets and phones, you can plug them into a dock and they become PCs.
I've seen that. Yeah, I saw a video of that. That's
so
cool idea.
There's going to be a lot more competition in the marketplace, and so I think it's a good thing because it will take the big guys, Apple, Google, and Microsoft, and make them rethink their decisions and the paths they want to take, and
it'll keep them in check, especially since a lot of these operating systems are free.
Yeah. And so. I just think it'll be good because it'll make them rethink their decisions, keep them in check, and make sure they're listening to their customers, not trying to force decisions on their customers. Because I think the Windows 8 and their don't call it Metro because they were, I don't know what they're calling it anymore, but the Windows 8 interface is a joke because it works fine for a tablet or a phone, but not functional on a computer easily when you're trying to use a mouse and a keyboard.
They bought a block of product endorsement on CBS. We like a couple CBS shows and we were watching, and so it was 3 shows and all of them had tablets with Windows 8 that they were just very blatantly pointing at the camera, and then there'd be
check this out.
Yeah, and then there'd be exactly. It was you're exaggerating. It was like that. And it made me kind of twitch a little and want to change the channel, and it was really obnoxious.
Nikki.
Oh yeah.
Let's hear about your call to arms.
Yeah, it's really more of an announcement for anyone local. So some of you might realize that I'm kind of a crazy cat lady. Just a little, maybe a lot.
Smidge. Bordering
on psychotic. Anyways, I have an obsession with Lil Bub, who is the cutest cat on the internet. And there is, on January 17th, the Internet Cat Video Film Festival is coming here, which is super awesome. And it's going to be at the Knitting Factory. Tickets are $20, $35 if you want a fancy seat, but then you're further away from the screen, so I don't know why you do that.
I never understood Knitting Factory's VIP stuff.
Okay.
It's
For Ange and I, we usually do that because it means she's not getting stepped on by people, because people ignore the cane.
But the general audience.
Yeah, for the general audience, it doesn't make any sense. For us, it was great. We did that at a couple shows. It is ridiculous how much more expensive it is, but because it's not a better seat. It just means you're not having to deal with people. But yeah, so cat videos, they're going to be showing Lil Bub and Friends, which is a documentary.
He could possibly be there.
She's a girl. Sorry. I keep telling you she's a girl.
Lil Bub just is she's a boy's
girl.
Name.
You just think that. She's from space. She's a tabby. She's a girl. She has a show on the YouTubes where she's got a little Jimmy Fallon style desk and interviews people. And I sent Dustin one of them. And it's the air guitar world champ, and she interviews him, and it's hilarious.
It's mildly entertaining. I at least say it all time.
Mike, you'll think it's hilarious.
I've been watching them.
Okay, so Mike knows.
I haven't seen that one yet. I gotta catch up.
It's the newest one. It's pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, so there's a documentary. It's got Lil Bub and some other internet cats, and they're gonna be showing that. It's got Keyboard Cat, Grumpy Cat, and it's just a little documentary, and they're gonna be showing it. It's gonna be great.
You interested in the cat videos?
I can't comment. I'm at a loss for words.
Dustin's the one that told me about this, by the way. He can act like I'm crazy all he wants, but he's the one that showed me this email.
I told you because I'm your friend. Now, I have no personal interest, but I know that you have an interest. Here's what blows my mind. All these videos are free. You can go onto YouTube. You can find every single video out there.
I don't think is free.
What?
I don't think Lil Bub and Friends is
documentary.
a documentary. I don't think that's free.
So there's a documentary involved.
That's what I said.
Yes, I heard. Okay,
did you listen to me?
I did. I just...
Clearly you didn't.
It went to the wide open space between Dustin's ears.
It's pinging around between the headphones right now.
But I just say that they're just going to show a bunch of cat videos that you can find on the internet for free. It just seems like you're paying for the convenience for them to just edit them together.
It's a film festival, first of all, so I think there's more... Typically, they have more to it than let's put YouTube playlists up on the screen.
Instead of watching cats by yourself at your computer, you can watch cats with other people.
Right.
Okay.
Enjoy the cuteness.
You can talk to other
together.
people that enjoy the same things you do in an environment where you're not the freaks in the room, which is what we're looking forward to. We can go be our crazy 3 cat owning selves and not be the weirdos in the room.
Okay.
It's going to be kind of cool.
I would say it's not so much about the videos themselves. Well, see the documentary, that's cool. I'm
excited for that, actually.
But it's the socialness of the experience. That's what you're going for, really.
And the possibility of Lil Bub being there. I posted a comment on Bub's Facebook. We're waiting to hear back on that if she's really going to be here. It says a special appearance by Lil Bub, but it doesn't say if it's a video appearance or live appearance. And I couldn't find information anywhere, so...
How about a live chat on YouTube?
That would be pretty sweet, too. Not as cool as Lil Bub actually being here, but...
Lil Bub respond.
Meow.
Yeah.
That's true.
You watched her show. She'll probably ask if we fly hot air balloons. And anyways, that was my news.
Excellent.
Cats.
So go find Nikki.
Meow.
She'll be there.
Yeah, Angela and I will be there, probably wearing our matching cat t-shirts that we randomly got.
Awesome.
I'm at a loss for words after that.
Well, okay, we got me this really cool shirt that's gray, and it's got this cat on it with a monocle and a mustache and a bowler hat, and it says "Nice Whiskers," and it happens to look like our cat Raisin. Yeah, you've seen me wear it a million times, I'm sure. It looks like one of our cats. And then months later, we saw it on clearance, and Ange was jealous of how cool my shirt was, so she had to get it for herself.
Oh, okay.
And we're not exactly the same size clothing-wise, so it's not like she could borrow mine. So,
I think Ange could use your shirts as sails.
Mm-hmm. She'd be like a kite.
Yeah.
I acted it out.
It was good.
So does this mean we can start referring to you guys as Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Are you calling me Bullwinkle?
I didn't think that.
No, you really didn't think that.
Yeah, that wasn't Mike. Engaged brain
Boris and
before mouth.
Natasha. Moose and squirrel.
Kill moose. Wait, what?
They're making a Fractured Fairy Tales. What is it? Sherman and Dr. Peabody.
Dr. Peabody.
Sherman
Yeah.
They're doing a movie.
That's kind of
It's going to go the way of Garfield, I think, is what I'm predicting.
Oh, don't say that.
Don't say that.
Because I love Peabody and Sherman, and they were great, but it didn't sound like they were going to do it very well.
I haven't seen any actual previews of it. I've just seen movie posters.
Yeah, movie posters and synopses, and it doesn't sound
awesome.
No.
Well, let's hope they prove us wrong, and Sherman and Peabody
please
is
prove
actually
us wrong.
awesome.
I would love that.
All right. On from cats and on to gradually moving into our subject, Mason.
Yes. This week on November 18th, Paizo Publishing, that would be paizo.com, Paizo.com. They put up a playtest for the next major book for Pathfinder, which is going to be the Advanced Class Guide, and the beta test, playtest for it is currently available for free on their website. Just search Advanced Class Guide on their custom search on their website. It'll pop up.
So for those of us who are tabletop gaming illiterate, what makes this exciting?
It's the first time they've released completely new classes in a long time for the game, and also they're kind of hybridish classes that kind of are aiming between two of the existing classes and what they do. So it gives you, it's kind of like, it's kind of like gives you more of the options of like, oh, I wish I could have done this with this kind of character. Well, these kind of fill in a lot of those holes. So, yeah.
Well, sweet.
So I am happy about it.
And then, all right.
Yes.
So from there, we're just going to roll right on over to our special guest, and for the main reason why he's here. Mr. Scott Morton here has a Kickstarter up for a project of his called The Wilderness. Explain to us.
Okay, well, so we're talking about Dungeons & Dragons today and tabletop gaming today. And for me personally, I've had a few experiences with tabletop gaming, and it really seemed to hinge on how prepared and how convicted the dungeon master was. One of the experiences was great. We had a guy who had a great backstory, and one of the things he did was he put on some background music, and it really seemed, at least for me, to get the experience to feel more visceral and more real. So I started thinking about it, and this is a background of mine. I've been in the video game industry for about 10 years, and I thought, hey, is there a group of DMs and GMs out there, or maybe even players, who would be into, complete volumes of music and ambiences that are specifically created for tabletop games? So that, and I know a lot of people will pull in movie soundtracks, or sometimes people will even lift sounds out of games or movies to kind of cobble together. Right. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of from scratch create something that's meant to be used in a tabletop game. And so what I'm trying to do is not only create something that's kind of easy to use and not distracting, but I'm also producing it in full 5.1 surround. So if you're an audiophile or you have a decent setup in your living room, all your gaming friends get together, you can actually, kind of surround yourself in these environments. And really, this Kickstarter for me is kind of a test to see, are there groups of people out there that would be interested in this? If so, what kind of things would they look for? And so the Kickstarter is really structured in a way that, especially for the upper backer tier, to vote on what they want in this first volume. And this is a first project, and hopefully what's going to be a lot of projects. And so moving forward, I'm just really hoping to hear from dungeon masters and game masters, and see where they feel things are lacking in the sound department for those that do use sound for their games. So yeah, check it out. If you like what you hear, there's a couple demos up there. There's also a free track you can download. And if this thing gets funded, we're right around the 70% funded mark right now, I think. And if it does, we'll have some full surround goodness going, and of course mixed down in stereo for people who don't have surround setups. And we also have an app that we're going to be developing if this thing gets funded to kind of help the get over just using an iTunes playlist. It'll have a little bit of interactivity, and it'll let you kind of layer your sounds together how you want.
That's a good idea.
So yeah, if you have your own stuff that you would kind of want to roll in with the stuff in the Kickstarter, then that will work too. So.
Okay. And what's the Kickstarter name?
It's called The Wilderness: Soundscapes for Tabletop Gaming. We're going to do a link to
Yeah, we'll have a direct link right in the post. So if you go to the post where this podcast is posted on our page, nerdeffect.com, we'll obviously have the link to the post up on our Facebook page like we usually do. And then we'll have a link posted. I'll put it right at the top, right underneath the
title card.
Thank you.
I helped.
The thingy.
The thingy. The
Pretty
image.
picture with the words.
The thing and the other thing.
Say a couple of other things. One, possibly a suggestion for you.
Sure.
Well, one, also, before we get into this, when does the Kickstarter end?
December 8th, I think.
December
is
8th?
the date.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple of things. One, because I'm going to plug them a little bit because I'm trying to get a job with them right now. But beastsofwar.com. They're primarily war games. But they've kicked around doing this kind of thing before too, so
Right.
You might want to get a hold of them. I can give you information after the show, see if they can throw up a little thing about it. Take a look at it and throw up a little thing about it on their website too.
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually really interested in kind of the content differences with wargaming versus RPGs.
Okay, we can definitely talk about that too.
Definitely.
That would be definitely one thing to talk to them and maybe a couple of the other like big sites that do reviews and stuff of tabletop stuff.
Definitely.
And like one of my things with using sounds when gaming is sometimes I have problems with the music, like having the ambient music going, and then all of a sudden, because a lot of times with fantasy games, you'll use orchestral scores, like like right now, a lot of people will use like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, and you'll get a swell in the wrong place that just doesn't work, and it kind of actually breaks the mood.
Right.
When you're thinking about doing this music, for the music part of it anyway, are you looking at trying to keep things kind of so like with the app, especially like where I could keep things kind of mellow,
Right. Yep.
and then like if something like major happens, like I could call up a swell or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely structured that way. So two things: the music that's part of these ambiences that I'm doing for this Kickstarter project, it is very much sort of melded with it. It's not meant to be a swell or an event, if you will. Because, it's the same thing. My experience with video games, trying to make music ambient versus, underscoring something.
Right.
And that type of thing can pull you out of the experience.
Right.
It's funny. So creating the ambience is very much about using music as an ambient function as well. But the app we're making is it's going to have two different sections. It'll let you create your backgrounds and your events, which will be triggerable as well.
Okay.
So, and it's being made to be really easy to use. I mean, it's drag and drop simple. I mean,
okay.
And it's going to be web based, so you should be able to run it on a PC. Eventually, we'll probably get it onto Android and iOS through HTML5. But the most important thing for us is getting it out quickly, just so people can start playing with it. But yeah, you'll have all that control, and if you have a certain set of tracks like the Lord of the Rings that you want to highlight moments with, it will work great for that.
Okay.
Not that I endorse using copyrighted material, but
well, if we already own the material.
Right, yep.
Any other
I have
questions?
no experience in tabletop gaming, but I was a music nerd for the vast majority of my life, and that's the kind of thing that gets me a lot more excited about tabletop gaming, is thinking of having something like that where you can have the soundtracks and call up the exciting moments and stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's a very cool idea.
Yeah. It's the whole movie quote by Spielberg that sound is 50% of the experience, right?
It's so true.
It can happen even. I think that the more free form situation of a tabletop game is it's more liberating also than being behind a computer screen,
Right.
or your game console TV. It's social experience too, and so we'll see how it goes.
I was gonna say that's probably one of my favorite aspects of the tabletop gaming is that it actually brings people into a room together versus playing long distance over.
Interacting like humans were meant to do?
Yeah, I know.
You can,
It's
you can
weird
take each
concept,
other's
I know.
clothes off in real time
Yeah.
in the same room
And you
rather
can
than on
expose
Twitch.
4
right?
people instead of 4,000.
Yeah.
Warn me when you're having that gaming night. I'm not gonna.
I won't be
that
there
one.
either.
Yeah.
Understand.
I rolled 0 armor. All right.
All right. Oh, strip D&D.
Oh no!
That's horrible.
Oh God, it probably exists.
I'm sure
it
someone's done it.
does. Yeah.
Mike says like he knows. All right.
So I'm actually kind of excited about this project. Since I started running games back in like late 80s, early 90s, I've always experimented with music in my gaming. I remember making a set of mixtapes and having the tapes pre-cued at certain points to pop in the cassette and hit play at certain points during the game. It was such a pain in the ass.
Right. Please turn
And-
the tape over.
Yeah.
Then later on, you got CDs, and it's a little easier to work with because you know which track you want. You can switch there, get the music going pretty quick. But yeah, still, I mean, it's always been a a clumsy process.
Right.
But having, music that's actually designed for that, and, like you were saying, making an interface for it, that's kind of freaking awesome.
Right. So it's going to be kind of a single button click type of thing. So say you're out in the forest and all of a sudden it starts raining, right? So click, here's my rain mix. And the transitions will be smooth. Everything will happen smoothly,
Nice.
To prevent you from being yanked out of your
Right.
your fantasy world or your experience. So, yeah. So, and this, for this Kickstarter, the app will be version 1. There's lots of stuff planned for it down the road too. Basically, we want it to be, you click a button and awesome stuff happens and you don't have to worry about,
Nice.
Very cool.
putting everything together.
So is it the way you kind of said it there for a couple of times was is it kind of like a service based thing or
The app?
Uh-huh.
No, it's actually going to be free. It's going to be web-based. I'll be hosting it on my site. And the cool thing about HTML5 is it does a lot more stuff with audio and video. You can do things like offline caching. We want to make it so that when you could say load up your session, you can save it as a preset, or it will auto-save. This is our goal anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Auto-save locally in your cache. So even if you brought your laptop to someone else's house and you didn't have internet, you could still roll with it through your browser cache and whatever files you have on your computer.
Oh, that's way cool.
So yeah, HTML5 is pretty cool. And I'm kind of working with my audio programmer buddy to figure out what we can do and for it to be really easy and quick to develop too. So
That's sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I think I'm good.
All right.
I'm excited.
Anything else you want to plug on it?
No, just go there. If you like what you hear, back us so we can make our goal.
Excellent. All right. Well, we currently do have links up on Facebook that you can go to. And again, we'll have the link directly in the show notes as well. I'll plug it probably definitely at least a few more times before
I'll
the
share
end
it
of
around a
the-
bunch too.
Yeah, we'll get the word out for sure. So Scott, thank you for sharing your project.
Yeah, thank you.
And we hope you're going to stick around for our noob questions here.
Oh yeah, I got some noob questions in my
Okay,
own, so.
excellent. All right. Well, on from a sweet ass Kickstarter to our unfortunately Nikki and I know next to
tabletop
nothing
role-playing
about
game 101.
I've been listening to Nerd Poker, like
that's like
binge
been
listening.
my main point of reference for any
Yeah.
of this. There's a Brian Posehn who
I
is an
referenced it
amazing.
like 3 times at my house today, and then realized what I was doing. It was the wrong audience for that.
Do you know who
Yeah.
do you know who Brian Posehn is? He's a
The creepy comedian with the big glasses that's on
Yeah,
all the shows as the weird friend.
yeah. He's a really cool guy. And he's
Super
hilarious.
funny.
So he got 3 or 4 of his buddies. 4 of his buddies.
Well, actually, right now I think I'm on 3 because they lost.
Oh, they lost Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no more naked bear time.
No. But the show is hilarious because it really shows what 5 really tight friends can do in a
Well,
D&D
they're all
game.
hilarious
and they're
comedians,
all
so
comedians.
it's pretty funny
Yeah.
to listen to.
Especially Blaine. That dude's a weirdo. Blaine Kirkpatch. He plays a guy. He plays a warlock with. Well, currently Nikki's got 19 charisma, and
Yeah.
the warlock's name is Blackie Green.
And he talks like a. There was actually a football game on my TV earlier, and one of the announcers sounded just like the voice he does. I was like, "That's where he got it from." I got really excited.
So these guys actually fully role play their characters. They don't just
Yeah, they do voices.
They act it out
It's
in the whole nine.
hilarious.
It's pretty funny, and so it just depends on how deep you get into your game, which I'm sure that's more questions we can ask. Like, how deep do you get into your games? You know, like
That's what she said.
Oh yeah, we haven't. That was the first. That's what
I've been good.
No, it's we need
I've-
that we're way below our quota.
It's true.
we have a guest.
I'm
Nikki.
sorry
So offended.
that I haven't said it before now.
All right.
Oh, I know the leaf puppy was on earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
Jesus.
good and I ignored it.
Yeah.
Mason broke me. It's okay.
It's become our
That's what she
mascot.
said.
There's this other picture that's a puppy carrying a leaf bigger than its head.
Oh, okay.
And one time we were in mid-conversation, it popped up, and I was just like, "Aw, look at the puppy." Because I'm a little ADD, and it kind of is shiny and in front of me. And Yeah.
Had her name written all over it.
Yeah. It's
So I have the first noob question.
Sure, go for it.
If I can ask. So, if I've never played a tabletop role-playing game before, and I'm interested and I'm approaching the topic, what are kind of some things to keep in mind, or what should I expect for my first experience?
For your first experience, a couple of things is one, expect to be overwhelmed by character creation at first.
I was going to say, I could answer this question.
Because that's where the rules are the most intimidating. Once you get past character creation in most game systems, things smooth out a lot because all the fidgety details are done at that point. But that's in the character creation is where a lot of the fidgety details on the player side happen. And a lot of also will come from depending on the group you are playing with. You have some groups that are very mechanically oriented. They're about the rules and are almost trying to see it almost as an accomplishment-based system. Like they're trying to hit benchmarks, hit goals throughout the game. And then on the completely opposite side of that, you'll get groups that they pretend like they play with the rules, but then they go off and do their own thing. On the these are the two ends of the spectrum.
like on Nerd Poker.
Yeah, and where it becomes completely role playing ROLE, not ROLL, which I like a happy medium somewhere personally. But it really is dependent on the group. What do you have to add, or you can just say I covered it?
You covered it pretty well. I mean, character creation is really anytime I've had a game where I've had somebody that's not played before, character creation is usually the thing that if they get turned off by it, it scares them away. If you can get past the character creation, the rest of it usually falls in place.
So for something like Dungeons and Dragons, is there kind of a light, LITE approach for character creation if someone wanted to get into it, but be have a preset or something, or be eased into it?
Yeah. Well, one you could. I'd say one of the easiest ways to do that is to basically tell the dungeon master or another player who is willing to help do the work, basically what you want to do. It could be simple as I want to be Aragorn. Just use the Lord of the Rings reference because they're fairly easy. Saying something like that. It's like, oh, I want to be Aragorn, or something like that. You could, and just have them kind of to give them description of what you want the character to be good at and stuff like that, and then they can kind of figure it out for you. I personally, being both a player and a DM, if someone new is coming in, I don't want to do that much for them. I want them to be a little more involved in the process to start kind of learning why some of the numbers and things on the sheet are the way they are. But still, I'm always willing to help. And also, it depends on the game system. There are some game systems out there, most of them have kind of gone by the wayside now, that are really, really, really complex and are really intimidating to try to get into. One example is the Traveler system. Some of the older editions, you actually had to know how to do calculus to figure out how to pilot the ships in that game, to do the faster than light jumps for the game. Otherwise, if you didn't do your calculus right, your characters could die because they end up in a supernova type thing.
Oh my god, that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the super nerd.
You just scared me. Okay,
just
for
go,
D&D,
Lightspeed, just go. I don't care where we land.
How much math do I need to be able to grasp for a D&D?
Addition and subtraction.
Okay, I got that. I got that.
Rep for Lightspeed, Chewie.
I was an artistic kid, not a not a statistic kid. Math.
Like you were mentioning about the using pre-generated characters. I actually did have a game that I did that, where I knew I had more new people than people that were experienced players, and I went ahead and just, I created characters for everybody to use, and they just kind of picked a character and went with it, so they didn't have to worry about character creation. Problem we ran into, though, is since they were just, handed a sheet with numbers on it, they didn't have any idea what any of the numbers meant. They didn't understand them, and they didn't have any personalization to it. So they didn't really have a feel for it being their character that they created. So, I mean, you can, but it's a lot better if you go ahead and, take the pain, do the character creation, and, put something together that you did yourself. Because then you actually have a lot better connection to that character when you play it.
Yeah. One of my gaming buddies that I game with on most Saturdays, Aaron and I both do this now because we've been gaming so long, and that we don't fear character creation in any way anymore. It's not intimidating to us. We actually make characters for fun.
Oh, that was my favorite part of the experience. The couple times I played.
Yeah, we just will sometimes, each of us, we'll just be, we'll just make characters that will probably never see the light of day when it comes to actually being in a game, just because we enjoy making them. So, it's one of those things where it's kind of the intimidating barrier, but once you get past it, you kind of learned it. It's no longer an intimidating barrier. So.
One thing I found too is that if you choose a class that's doesn't have a lot of complications to it too,
right.
like I was I was a warrior my first time out. Just, I mean, you don't need much other than I'm going to beat you with my hands or my weapon. So
sorry, I'm interjecting just because my question's playing off of yours, because I am no experience. Literally, I played HeroClix once, and that's the closest I've ever come.
Right. That's more of a war game.
Yeah, it was really fun, but okay, so how do the classes like affect what you're allowed to do within the confines of the game? I don't understand.
To some extent,
super
yes.
for dummies, like, yeah.
Basically, the class is kind of, think of it like using Lord of the Rings as the archetypes. You're like the wizard, the magic user type, arcane spellcaster. That you're looking at, like, that's Gandalf.
Okay.
Aragorn is the ranger. He's kind of the woodsman backland warrior who lives who's really in tune with the land and stuff like that. Boromir is a fighter where, he's been trained militaristically how to fight. And then all four of the hobbits are rogues because they're sneaky. They're, good at talking through things or avoiding danger, things like that. So those, classes are archetypes and will affect what you can do, but only to a certain extent. Like, a fighter's not going to run around casting spells.
Okay.
But it's not like a restriction on, I'm going to try to do this. Well, okay, how are you going to try to go about that? Type is, I'm
your
not going to say
difficulty level increases significantly depending on your class to do something.
Right. And also certain classes are a little bit harder to play. For example, like wizards, whereas, a lot of people like the fantasy of, being able to throw a fireball, because who doesn't just want to burn it all down once in a while? Wizards are kind of a hard class to play, because they take a little more forethought. Because you have to, worry, you have to think about, okay, what kind of spells do I want this guy to do? All that kind of stuff. Whereas a fighter, sword, good, bash. It's, when you have a big enough hammer, everything looks like a nail. Mm-hmm. So, it's, I would never say don't play a class because you're a new player, but don't be afraid to ask questions when you're looking and going, what was I going to do again?
Yeah.
Ask questions.
You guys are going to get really annoyed with me the first time we play. I can tell you that already.
No, we won't.
I do have a quick question. I hear a lot of people, especially on the show that we listen to, about, right now on the show, they're playing 4th edition D&D, but apparently a lot of people like to lean towards 2nd edition. for I guess other reasons.
I would say 3rd edition or Pathfinder over 2nd, but yeah.
So, okay, I guess that's my question is, like, what makes one edition different over another? Like, what are they doing differently that makes one, quote-unquote, better than another?
Well, better is always a personal preference.
Right.
But the different... Okay, D&D had kind of been going along a kind of a specific trajectory for a very long time. From the original chainmail... Well, not the chainmail rules, but the original Dungeons & Dragons rules that came out that were little pamphlets by Gygax and Arneson, all the way up through 3.5. It was very much the high fantasy adventure game. And the rules were kind of loose as far as, like, one of the concepts that was never in... Well, okay, back up. Okay, MMOs, World of Warcraft specifically, because it's kind of still the king of MMOs. There's what's called the Holy Trinity: tank, healer, DPS.
Mm-hmm.
What's DPS?
Damage per second.
Okay.
They're the ones who do damage dealers.
I told you, super for dummies for me.
And yeah, tanks are the ones who are built to absorb damage, and healers keep people alive.
Okay.
That concept came in with the MMORPG. That had not entered tabletop role-playing games before that. So a lot of the rules were, it's like, depending on the DM, you would get DMs who would intentionally rush the magic users with every monster possible to try to prevent them from casting spells by all means necessary. Because some of them were geared towards, I want to defeat my players. They looked at it as a conflict between DM and players when it came to playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
I am not one of those. We're here to make a story together type DM. I'm not afraid of killing people's characters off, but it's not my goal.
I'm gonna die.
I'm not running the game.
I know, but Mike was sitting there nodding his head to everything you said. So
it's also a lot of it can be as simple as the
luck of the dice.
Oh yeah, I
too,
know.
So
It's literally a roll
difficulty
of dice.
22, and you have
Save
a
versus
D20,
death.
and maybe
Yeah.
Remind me to tell my one funny D&D story
Oh, yeah.
before we're done.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But we have, so you have different ranges of DMs there like that too, with how much they are either engaged with trying to tell a story or it's a competition. But D&D was on this trajectory of getting away from the competition. Every edition was a little less competitive between the DM and the players than the last. It was originally based off a set of rules called Chainmail, which was a fantasy war game. It was the first fantasy war game. It was made by Gygax and Arneson because they wanted to put Gandalf on a medieval war game table. So they made it up. And then they said, hey, let's get this small group of people together, try it with like one character each. And that's how kind of D&D was born. Really, really short form. So originally it came from a competitive us versus them type outlook, and it's gotten away from that. 4th edition tried to make the DM the server, for lack of a better term, for an MMO. 4th edition started giving roles to the classes, like the fighter is a defender or tank. The cleric is a healer or leader, as they call them in D&D. And then like rogues and rangers are DPS classes. They're strikers, as they're called in D&D. They're meant to do damage. So they started getting special abilities that would allow them, like tank special abilities, defender special abilities, would allow them to try to hold people's attention so they couldn't attack anyone but you without penalty. Strikers got stuff so they could do more damage, things like that. So some people liked that change. A lot of D&D gamers did not like that change. Also,
it seems really restrictive.
It was a lot more restrictive, and it was very simplified compared to 3rd edition and 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
So Paizo, who I mentioned earlier, came out with Pathfinder, which is a lot more 3.5 like. There are rules changes between the two, but it's a lot more like 3.5.
So is Pathfinder a part of D&D, or is that its own book?
It's its
game.
own game technically. However, it is basically D&D 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the rule set's very, very close. It has its own publications and stuff, but it's the spiritual successor essentially to D&D 3.5. So a lot of people went to that system because they preferred it over 4.0. And I mean, there's a myriad of other games out there too with different systems involved, also. But those are the two like big ones when it comes to fantasy role playing games. I don't like the restrictiveness of 4.0, but if like a friend of mine was like, "Hey, do you want to come play my 4th edition game?" I wouldn't necessarily say no based on it being 4th edition. I'm open to playing it. It's just not my preference. Yeah.
I never did update my books to 3.5. I'm still running 3.0 books.
Yeah, well, I'll let you borrow some Pathfinder here.
All right. I'll have to rush up.
Yeah.
That's okay. We got a Doctor Who show next weekend, so I got a couple weeks at least.
Yep.
This may be the same question. We do have one response to the Facebook page.
Okay.
It's from Tori Blackthorn.
Okay.
Yay, Tori.
So I'm wondering which incarnations are the favorites of Mike and Mason and why. I'm guessing by incarnations she means addition?
Additions of D&D, probably, yeah. Say, like I just said, mine's Pathfinder.
I really liked AD&D, basically 2nd edition, but 3.0 just worked better. Even though there were some rules in there that were just kind of broken.
Yeah. The most feared words at any gaming table and for D&D 3.0 and 3.5 was, "I joined the grapple." Which it takes way too long for you guys to explain, but the people that understand out there will be laughing right now, I promise.
Kind of like a Twister game of Twister.
Oh, it gets terrible. Unfortunately, grappling was one of those things where either you were good at it in the game, you were specifically built your character to be very good at grappling, and nobody could beat you unless they were also specifically built to grapple, or you were everyone else and totally sucked at it. So it was very binary. So Pathfinder fixed it a lot. It was no longer anywhere near as binary. So yeah. But yeah, thanks for the question, Tori. And yes, that's my answer.
I've heard of other games, like people being able to create their own games of, not necessarily D&D, but like they could just choose like a scenario and basically there's like some sort of like simple D6 system that's out there that you can pretty much make any game off of.
There's a few of them.
There's a few of them. One of the big ones right now is Fate, and Fate uses what are called fudge dice. They have each die it's a die 6, but it has 2 blank sides, 2 pluses, and 2 minuses. And basically you take a stat and a skill, add them together to get a number. So say your total's 7. And then you roll 4 fudge dice and you add up the pluses and minuses. And say you end up with a +1 total. You get like 2 pluses, a blank, and a minus and a negative. So you have a +1, basically. So your total score would be an 8 on that roll. And the Fate system, they don't have anything that is genre specific in it whatsoever. So you can make up any scenario you want. Whenever I kind of make up scenarios for games, I also default to the White Wolf system because
I think that's the other one I've heard is the White Wolf system.
White Wolf is easily, when you strip away the vampire part or the werewolf part or the mage part, White Wolf is very generically an easy system to build stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, very good system. We've had a lot of playtime on that. Yeah.
Say Mage the Ascension, the Purple Book Mage from White Wolf, the old World of Darkness version, is probably my all-time favorite game for a role-playing game.
Let's hear. I want to hear your funny story.
Yeah.
It's been kind of sitting in the back of my brain.
Okay, so this I was mentioning earlier that I played with a DM who was pretty good, and he used music and really got into it. But he was one of those more story-oriented, and the game he ran wasn't as stats-based. It was a lot of sort of catering to our wishes in which direction we wanted the story to go. So this was my first time playing D&D, and they had me roll a rogue. Just really quick. And I was joining in on a campaign that had been going for weeks and weeks. So we were in the tavern, and I decided, there's a guy in our party that's a paladin. I'm just going to try to steal his sword. Whatever. I'm going to steal your sword. So I was successful, and unbeknownst to me, in like 2 or 3 gaming sessions previous, he had trapped a demon inside the sword, and me stealing it inadvertently released it. And so rather than and this is kind of the cool thing about tabletop gaming is, rather than doing the planned scenario that the DM had, we spent the entire night fighting this demon that was trying to wipe out the entire party, and they didn't want me to play with them after that. I had a blast. I thought it was really fun. But
that's one of the things like about tabletop role playing games versus anything on a computer. I like a lot of computer role playing games, but their one great limitation is if I decide to go left in a computer game, I run into a wall.
Right.
If the game doesn't want me to go left. In a tabletop role-playing game, if the DM's even semi-competent, I can go left. It may not be the plot line they had going or wanted to have going, but they will let you go left for as long as you want. However, if the DM's especially good enough, you will do a great circle, and you will come back to their plot in basically the spot they wanted you at. Just you came at it from a different direction. You thought it was your idea by that point. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one example I like to pull out, a friend of mine, let's see, what was his name? Nathan Mays, yes. Haven't seen him in a long time. But,
Name dropping.
Yep. But he's a really good GM. And in a D&D game, he was running with some of us a while back. We were running through this module where it was like a spelljammer. So we had the spelljammer ship. The power source for the ship was a beholder. So they had this beholder that was plugged into the ship to power it magically so it could fly through space. Sorry.
Magic spaceship.
Sneaky's expression. That was awesome.
I haven't played.
So,
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. But
shaped like a phone box.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
So basically, the way the module's designed, I mean, it's like when players get into the room where they find a beholder, it's generally assumed that you're just going to fight the beholder and slay it, and or keep it plugged into the thing and use it as a power source. We made friends with it. So we had Bob the Beholder as a honorary part of our crew. He thought of himself as the captain. So, he, his eye stalks that you normally have the magic ray attacks from. You guys were looking at me with, like, deer in headlights. But
I hear you.
They have, the beholders. It's a big ball with a big
I actually
mouth.
know what you're talking about,
I don't.
surprisingly.
It's okay. Keep talking.
I've
I've got the
seen it in
Googles.
I actually remember looking at it in the
happen.
book when we were doing one run, and it was
very dangerous critter. All sorts of mean, evil laser beam eyes come out of its eye stalks.
I say TPKs are common when players fight beholders. TPK be a total party kill.
Yeah,
because they're really dangerous.
That's
this
horrible.
particular breed of beholder that was designed specifically to power the ships, though, so all of its eye stalks were basically non-functional. So the only eye it had was its main center eye, which is an anti-magic zone. So at certain points in the game, my character would grab onto Bob and basically aim his anti-magic eye at things that were trying to throw magic at us. Freaking epic.
They do have a lot of lasers. These are cool.
Yep, we had bad guys on little flying magical things that were riding, and so I just take Bob, aim at him, and fall out of the sky.
You aimed Bob?
I aimed Bob. I had a Minotaur. He was a Minotaur, so he could aim Bob. It was a good game. But that's the fun of playing with a desktop, or not a tabletop game, whereas on a computer game, you can't do stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, there was one time I was visiting my best friend back down in California, and it happened to be like her Friday night game, and I was down there, and she's like, I really want to go. I was like, okay, go. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I'm here for a week. So, and she's like, well, come with me. I was like, okay, I'll come hang out, And it boiled down to eventually I ended up basically getting harangued into playing the game for one session, which is kind of weird. But one of her friends and I, my character that I had, because I didn't take my gaming stuff out of my backpack before I stuffed clothes into my backpack, so I had some of my characters and stuff with me. The character I had with me was a cleric of a god of thievery. So he was essentially a thief who could cast a few spells here and there, because, of his divine connection. And he promoted how thievery was freedom, and, it kept, important amounts of destabilization in the economy and in society, and, helped, keep structure the way it needed to be without becoming overbearing. Yeah. A lot of excuses to go steal stuff, basically, is what it boiled down to. And she had her character, not my friend, but another friend of hers, her character was a, hardcore, by the book, law and order, deity of civilization following cleric. And our characters hated each other from, word one. Of course, they met my character as I was jumping off of a galleon onto the dock because I had just stolen, a whole bunch of important documents for somebody from the captain of that ship. And I basically landed on her character, and then it didn't get any better from there, from between our characters. And, we were, standing up across the table yelling at each other in character. And, everyone else around the table was kind of giving us, the sheep or the deer in headlight looks, uh-oh. And then, everyone thought we hated each other through the entire game. And then, after the game was over, we go outside, and the two of us are standing out there having, we both smoke, so we're both having a cigarette. And a couple minutes after we both go out there, my best friend Heather, she comes out, and she's like, do you guys not like each other? And we're like, no, we like each other fine. And because we had met a couple times before that, but never for very long. We give each other a big hug and stuff, and it's because everyone was wondering if we needed to separate you two or something. We're like, no, we were just role playing.
Yeah, that's a great segue into when you guys run your games. Someone that's coming in that's new might not feel comfortable with the role playing part of it, right? So what do you do if you have, say, a mixed group, or do you tend to like to run role played games or more casual games?
We break their cherry. Wait.
Oh, dear God.
Bye. No, I personally...
Yeah, because I will probably get self-conscious.
It's okay.
It's
just your friends.
Yeah,
You're a
I know.
Thanos fan.
I know.
You let out a Xena warrior princess cry, and I'm sure he'd be like, yes!
Yeah.
If I knew how to do that, I would do that because you kind of requested it, but I don't.
It would be epic.
It would be pretty
Yeah,
epic.
it would be epic.
I'll try and learn. Or Dustin can just do it.
Yeah, there's that.
You're welcome.
I personally try to run them, I tend to run towards kind of a moderate game when it comes to role playing versus ROLE versus ROLL. Because I like to get into the fights too. I also happen to like war games though, so I get the minis out, plugging them on the table and fighting it. As I'm making hand motions.
Yeah.
That'll bring me to a side question.
Yeah.
My guy kills your guy.
And then the dinosaur comes.
But so I try to keep it as a happy medium between the two most of the time. And there's some days I have some of my friends are great role players. Some of them are not as good, and that's just the way any group goes. I don't for the people who aren't as good, I don't expect them to have the higher level of role play. And then the thing is like, even when people are great role players, everyone has an off day. So it's like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't really stress about it. And for a new player, my advice is just role play at a level you're comfortable at. If other people are getting too intense for you, don't be intimidated to let them know that. Like, ask, hey, I'm new. Can you reel it in just a little bit right now? Or
turn it down, you guys.
Yeah, but don't be afraid to do things like that. And
so when Dustin shows up with his full on like Braveheart costume, we're like, dude, seriously, come on.
Dustin in a kilt. I need to see this.
For Glenishmore. And you'll know why that's funny soon.
But yeah, I just let them hang out and do whatever level they're comfortable with. I don't try to force them to tone down. I don't try to force them to ramp up, because it just takes time to find your comfort level and that kind of stuff. And when you're new, it's a little more intimidating than, after you've been in an established group, especially like you may know one or two players in a group and come in and, there's these 3 or 4 other people you don't know. And so, yeah, you got to get used to knowing everyone and stuff too.
Or even from like my perspective, like, yeah, I've known you guys for a bazillion years.
Right.
But I've never played D&D, and I've definitely never played it with you guys, so that's a new scary thing.
Okay, let me ask you then. Would you, this is to Nikki.
Yeah.
Would you feel safer joining a group that is experienced even though you're friends? Or would you feel more comfortable coming into a group who is just starting to learn if you don't know them as well?
Oh, I don't know. Equal levels of comfort, I think, on that. Because learning new things is scary.
Okay, but if you know you're in a group of friends that are going to help guide you through it, regardless of your
situation.
situation.
Yeah, no, well, I can't imagine a group of people who didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Because it sounds to me like you're more intimidated by the fact that there's going to be a group of people who know what the hell they're doing and you don't.
Yeah, kind of. That is kind of what it is.
Rather than the fact that they're your friends.
Being the one that doesn't know what the hell's going on. That's why I've been binge listening to Nerd Poker. I'm just like, I need to understand things, you guys. No, yeah. It's one of those things where it just sounds so cool, and I've been wanting to play for such a long time, but getting someone who's willing to show you how to play D&D has been a very interesting
Why
endeavor.
Did you never ask me sooner?
I don't know. I mean, it's just an idea I was tossing around for a while.
Okay.
And everyone's like, oh, well, I'm already in a group and they don't like new players, or, stuff like that. It's just like, oh, well, okay, that makes it sound like a scary thing to learn. Like, it just, that's mostly what it is. It's I know it's time consuming and
it's like
complex.
Like right now, my Saturday group, there's 8 of us. And that's just like insane amount of
Jesus.
That's an insane amount.
How long do you guys sit down and usually go at a session for?
How long do we actually get role playing done, or how long are we there?
Kind of like how the podcast works, how we're here way longer. Okay.
Yeah. When there's not a special guest.
Yeah.
We're
actually being really good tonight. This is the least amount
This is the most streamlined show that we have to date. I'm pretty sure.
Like a machine.
It's we usually hang out for about 4.5 to 5.5 hours. We usually end up gaming for about 3.5.
Okay, that's about what I figured.
Yeah.
I've been in those traps where I've had games where I've had 8-10 players, and it gets really hard to keep everybody involved.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think it has to do with how many people you have, or is it?
Involvement comes, like, the smaller the group, the more involvement there is. But again, there's a happy medium level. I like between 4 and 6 is my ultimate group level, is 4 to 6 players plus the DM. Right now we have 7 players plus the DM, which happens to be me currently, but even if it was somebody else, we'd still have 7 players. That's like, depending on the DM, that's 1 to 2 people too many usually, but we just make it work because we all like hanging out, and it's like, for us, the role playing is almost secondary in a lot of ways, to just get as an excuse to make sure we hang out once a week. Most of the time. So.
Okay.
Much like the podcast.
Yes. So anyway, you had a side question for me.
I had a side question because you guys
games.
had mentioned the use of miniatures.
Yes.
In a game. Now, I've seen the game seems to be pretty flexible as far as that goes. Like some people have full on just table sized maps.
Right.
Some people just pen and paper it out.
Right.
Or some people even just say, well, you're here and I'm over there. Just kind of point it out. And
Right.
Is there like a preferred method? Is there an easier way of doing it? Because it seems like in a game like Warhammer, you have to have miniatures.
Well, Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40K, the war games, miniatures are an absolute must. That's the point, is to put miniatures onto a big table and have them go roll wah for Warhammer at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And roll dice and take miniatures off the table and move them tactically. That's the entire point.
It's like chess with cooler things.
Yes.
It's like super advanced chest. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You said chest.
I know.
Freudian slip there, Mike?
I don't know.
But that's what she said.
Isn't a Freudian slip something about Victoria's
I have
Secret?
a super advanced chest. I could totally shoot lasers out my nipples.
Oh my god, that is a good skill.
That's a cyberpunk
You have
skill.
a beholder chest.
I was just,
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of how to tie in the beholder. Yeah, you know, over it.
But yeah,
Mics are out there pushing me around.
Pointing you at things. You got like that third nipple. That's what is it? The magic suck or whatever you called it. Yeah. Anti-magic. I don't.
the anti-magic code.
Yeah, like a black hole for magic is what I pictured it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah, but you have like most role-playing games do not require the minis. But then there's like 4th edition D&D does. It like they made it very specifically to be much easier with minis than without. Whereas like,
because that's how they make more money.
yeah, that's part of it, is that they sell
get it.
the minis.
But okay, they're playing 4th edition on.
I think they've got like graph paper or something, and they just do the math.
Yeah, but they don't have the miniatures, as far as I can tell, in the game, in their game.
I'm sure there's ways you can.
Well, is it
figure
an
out
audio
something.
podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might
They've
actually
mentioned not having them.
Okay. I say you don't have to, but in 4th edition, like, everything's measured in squares.
Mm-hmm.
They've mentioned the squares.
Yeah.
Like, it's mentioned in squares. Everything's in squares. It's built around using a table, like a grid mat with minis on it. Whereas like in Pathfinder and 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, everything's in feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just,
It's a tool.
it's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, some like war games require it. Role-playing games do not.
It's a lot easier to have like a map drawn out of what room you're in, having the miniatures on the map showing where you're located, and then seeing where the bad guys are. It makes it a lot easier to say, okay, well, I'm going to go shoot at this guy, and this guy's going to go over here and run over and attack that one, and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, it's a lot easier for the GM to just kind of have a mental image of how far something is from something.
Well, it depends. It's like occasionally you will find that player whose mental image conflicts with the DM's mental image, and he insists his is right, and it causes a fight. So
Nerd fight.
the table and with the map,
And they just sweep
makes
the map off the table and just brawl.
Yeah, never
Slappy
done that.
wrists. And...
Well, I pissed off my whole group before.
but yeah, it really depends. And then like, certain games like White Wolf games, for example, especially Vampire. Like I hate when I was playing Vampire, I hated it when fights broke out. That was not the point of the game. Like, yeah, you're an undead, vampire.
Sparkle.
No sparkles. Burst into flame in sunlight, like vampires are supposed to do. But they're creatures of intrigue and subtlety. Going around trying to beat everything up is not the point. But a lot of times, even in vampire games, people degrade it into fights in some groups. And it's like, oh, this is painful. This is not, yeah. But what can you do? But, in vampire, they're really loose on the combat rules. And you can also die real quick in their combat system. So, yeah.
And
Which they kind of made it easy to die in the combat system to encourage not using combat very often.
That was Greek to me.
Yeah.
Like I understood the concept, but what you were going for just.
Sorry.
That Cisco hold music started playing in my head.
Oh man. Yeah, that was. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea.
No, but there's this.
Somebody threw together like an hour-long loop of hold music.
Yeah, this whole music, because I make a lot of phone calls here, and there's always like this hold music that's like this kind of like almost like new age trance music that it's horrible. I can't. But it's like my favorite hold music of all time. Every time I get into it, I'm just grooving. I'm like, please don't pick up the phone. I'll just sit here and just groove at it. And it's apparently it's by Cisco. We found out the last show I think we did.
The router people, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
maybe hold
Not
music
the
is
rapper.
designed to make you hang up most.
Maybe
of the
there's
time.
your maybe there's
we don't want to talk to you.
there's a career move for you. If you ever want to get into sound design, just create hold music, see what happens.
The most annoying hold music you can, like, without crossing that line of being just very obvious. Just irritating enough that they don't stay on the line. Yeah.
That would be amazing.
I think they kind of do that already.
I would promote the shit out of that.
I'd walk over to your desk and you pull your headphone away from your head and I could just hear it playing in your headphones. Just like, what are you listening to, buddy?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm on hold. Perpetually.
Forever.
All right, do we have anything else? I don't have any other questions.
Let me run a question by you guys.
Yeah.
So, since I'm apparently going to be running the game.
Yes, you are.
So, what type of game interests you guys? I mean, just straight up fantasy D&D, or do we want to
There's options.
try
Cyberpunk.
I would say, well, we have cyber.
I kind of like that whole Spelljammer thing. That sounded kind of awesome.
Spelljammer's pretty complicated.
Okay.
Not a good first game.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say
Easy's good.
I tried.
If you name a genre of like if you can think of any movie or literary genre, there is a game for it.
There's a steampunk one made by Abney Park.
Yeah.
I vote for that.
I would say I actually own the book.
Of course you do. I got their music through you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
His fault.
see. I mean, I could
That's
use
a weird system, though.
D&D system to do something basically steampunk.
That would be fun.
If I do that, I'd probably do it more like taking D&D fantasy and adding steampunk to it.
I vote for that.
Sounds good to me. Okay. From my personal experience, and I was actually talking to Scott about this before the show, but when we were playing D&D back when I was, in that scenario, I was coming in off like 12, 14-hour shifts from Radio Shack, and I would literally about an hour into the game just and Jen, my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, would just sit there and giggle at me from across the room, and these guys would have to like wake me up whenever it was my turn to do something.
Chuck things at your head.
That was you were busting your ass way too many hours a day at Radio Shack.
Right, and but the other thing too that could have been maybe that would have helped that situation. Some music, maybe, or even
I don't know. It might have put you to sleep even faster.
It is pretty soothing, but because I do like fantasy, but if it was in a genre of something that
I got way more excited when you mentioned steampunk than I did when we were talking Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Lord of the Rings, but he said steampunk and my ears just went, what? That'd be fun.
So if it's a genre that you can feel like you can get involved in more, I think that would hold your attention a little better. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of D&D, and I think at the time, other than Cyberpunk, I really didn't know that there was much else out there other than the two. So now that I know, and I've been around for a long time, I know that there's almost an infinite amount of different games that you can play now. Like there's a Matrix version of the game, which is pretty interesting.
In the nerd Matrix. Instead of feeding you the weird stuff through twos, it's all just like Surge. coming down the line.
Mainlining Mountain Dew and Rockstar.
Oh, God. That's how Dustin gets through Mondays.
That's true.
You guys you've been following the Oculus Rift. I'm
Yes,
assuming.
I have.
So they need to put cameras facing outwards on that so that you can do, overlays and stuff in the room around
Yes.
you. So yeah, you can imagine D&D looking at your friends across the table in their full outfits.
That would be awesome.
That would be
cool.
sick.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a really cool steampunk hat at home that
So
Helen
do I.
made me. I could just wear.
And never
What?
mind. In Korea, they have some really kick-ass hologram technology that can overlay costumes.
You want to use it to play K-pop videos, don't you?
My favorite K-pop band uses it in their concerts.
Is that the same technology they use to quote unquote resurrect Tupac?
That was a cool video. I saw that.
I don't actually know if it's the same technology, but because they can act with the K-pop one the one that K-pop artists use that I'm talking about.
This is more along the lines of what we usually do, like the D-Rails app.
Like they like one of the points where they use it, like the girls are dancing and they're behind a see-through screen. But when you project onto the screen, it it blacks out the screen so you can't see behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mirroring it's showing them in different outfits on the screen than what they're actually wearing, but the dances, they're actually doing the dance. So, and it's not a pre-recording. It's doing some kind of motion capture as they're dancing.
Like it recognizes where you're
right. Yeah,
dancing.
and then it's projecting them with the different clothes onto the screen.
I knew you brought that up because of K-pop.
I happen to see it because of that. I think the technology in of itself is neat.
It's cool. That would be
So-
pretty awesome in a D&D.
But yeah, but
Platform.
pretty
That
like
would
in
be
the
really
Oculus
cool.
Rift. Yeah.
That'd be pretty sick.
Plus an outward showing camera on the Oculus would be great. So I could just, occasionally flick it on. So I could, if I lose my position on my keyboard and mouse, I could flick it on really quick, and realign my hands, and then turn it off. That would be nice.
Maybe there's another Kickstarter project for you. So look for it in 2016.
Fully
Yeah, if the Oculus
immersive
Rift guys are listening
experience.
to that outside-facing camera, just picture-in-picture up at the top, kind of like a Google Glass would be great.
Well, who is it? John Carmack left id Software permanently.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, to just do the Oculus Rift.
Okay.
So he's full-time there now.
Okay.
So it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Even the demos I've seen of it, it looks really neat. One of the things I'm kind of hoping they can eventually do with it is make it so it can separate your eye motion. Like your eye motion is looking around and moving your character's head motion, but separate out aiming motion from that. So I can still aim with my mouse, but I can be looking over here and aim at Dustin.
Right.
Oh,
Where's he taking you
so
out,
you're saying is
Dustin?
the reticle follows your sight wherever you're
The
going.
reticle follows my mouse, not my head motion.
But okay.
It'll stay within my field of view no matter what.
Uh-huh.
But I can move it with my mouse, so I can be looking like this. I have both you and Nikki in my field of view, but I can be shooting at either one of you, but looking basically at the corner.
Well, they've got that technology now where your phone can tell if you're not looking at it and it
Yeah.
pauses the video, so
Mm.
clearly they're figuring something out.
Yeah. But yeah,
Science.
It's looking at the shape of your eyeball.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That was pretty awesome.
I got it. It's fun.
As somebody who's constantly getting distracted when I'm trying to watch things on my phone at home, I think that's awesome. Because usually I just let shit play.
but then you miss the cat videos.
Then you rewind. It's not you. It's not always cat videos with me. God, you're worse than the YouTube recommended page.
I'm just teasing you.
I know
Or
you
the
are.
Netflix recommended page.
13 going on 30 is not Dependables 2 or
Dependables?
Expendables. Dependables. That's the Depends product
30
placement.
going on 70.
No, Dependables would be the Expendables in another 30 years. They're in Depends.
30 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're close, but...
Yeah.
Chuck Norris is in his 70s now. He's like 73, 74.
And still intimidating.
Mm-hmm. Would not want to meet that guy in an alley.
Nope.
What happened?
A derail, I believe.
I think so.
Complete derail. How did
Yeah.
I do not topic?
I didn't even have a way to recover from that one.
So anyway, D&D.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think we covered it pretty well. I don't have any more questions.
Do you? No.
I really don't have anything else. We've put a good almost hour into that.
Yeah. Well, Scott, you had the question earlier with the difference between war and you were going to mention some war gaming and role playing. Did we get that? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it seems like, well, I guess from a perspective of what would, in terms of audio and music, what would you want differently in a wargaming session than an RPG session? Just battle music.
Well, for a war game, it's just battle music.
More drums.
But still subtle, I imagine, because you're still talking and,
right,
and it's still social. Right?
Yeah, it's still social. They're still talking, but it
tends to be one setting per game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, you have a battlefield that you set up on. Depending on how it's done, either the train's cooperatively put together or you take turns placing pieces to try to either mess with your opponent or give yourself an advantage somehow using the terrain. That's kind of how they do it competitively. Sometimes you have a third party set it up for you, some stuff like that. But what war games are one scenario, and that's it per time per game. Because an average, back when I played, the average for Warhammer was a 2,000 point game. They've actually knocked it down to 1,500 points because of time, because they realized that an average 2,000 point game takes about 5-ish hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they knocked it down to 1,500 points to try to get it down to about a 4-hour time frame. They found even that 1 hour difference is big for a lot of people. For a lot of times it's a lot easier. Like, is it easier to commit like noon to 4 or noon to 5 on most Saturdays for people? Especially as adults, it's usually easier to do about a noon to 4 than it is a noon to 5. So they figured out that 1 hour difference actually makes a huge difference on people actually continuing to play.
Like, I could go home and cook dinner, man.
Yeah, exactly.
God, I'm just stressing about finding time for D&D. I can't even imagine 5 hour.
Yeah.
That's a commitment.
So yeah, and like also other games are becoming a lot more popular now too that are shorter. Like one of the other big competitors now is War Machine and Hordes, which same company, basically the same rule set. They're actually interchangeable games. You can play them together.
Actually, I have one question.
But War Machine and Horde, depending on the size of your army, their point system's a lot different. Like a massive War Machine game's 100 points. But like you can play anywhere from a 15-point game to like a 150-point game with the stock rules. So like 150-point games, that's going to take a while. That's going to take a long time. But a 15-point game can be done in like an hour and a half, 2 hours at most. So they've made it a lot more scalable. And there's also what are called skirmish games that are becoming more popular, where you only each player, and there's usually only 2 players at a time, only have like 5 figures, and the games are meant to take about 45 minutes each. So, but that way you can get like, they also use a lot smaller tables, because most wargaming tables are 4x6 or 4x8s. The skirmish games usually use a 3x3.
Like the size of this table almost.
Yeah.
That's a lot of table.
Yeah. Skirmish games use like a 3x3 piece. So you can get together with more people, and still, if you play for 4 hours, you can get 4 or 5 games in. So yeah, that was done. That's also done intentionally because they're meant to be quicker and stuff. So, but yeah, with war game music, for me, it would be a lot more like a long enough loop to not notice the repetitiveness.
Yeah,
but
that's
something
a long time to get something.
Something that's more intense, more almost well, okay, I wouldn't. It's not. I would definitely say something more aggressive. Whereas with like role playing games, I'd want stuff that's more background most of the time. Kind of pleasant and atmosphere setting. But then when I get into combat, I'm going to want stuff to more trumpets, more brass, more drums, more more aggressive music, basically.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be my difference between the two, at least. Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really can't add to that. I mean, he covers it.
Okay.
I did figure out a small question because in the two main experiences I've had in D&D, one of them was a full campaign.
Yeah.
That we did with Eric, you guys, and I think somebody else. It was either Bill, I think, maybe.
Yeah, it was Bill, I think.
I don't think I was playing in that one because you guys kind of had a full group. Because I remember just popping in around the corner and saying I put it in my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And then whatever was happening at that time, you were laughing at me putting it in my mouth. Then
I do remember that.
Yeah.
So there was two games, actually.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of... I think the first one faded from me a little bit because we were only like 4 or 5 games in, and then work took over. And
yeah.
But there was the primary one, which is the full campaign, and then there was the when Copel came back into town.
Right.
We did a one-off, which
Yeah.
was like a jump into the middle of an adventure, like a one-off adventure,
Right.
and it lasted for like 4 or 5 hours, and then we were done.
Right.
Do you find that those are hard or easy to navigate, or have you done any of those yourself? Or
yeah, the one-off games, everyone has to do a lot more prep work ahead of time because like everyone has to be ready to go, have their characters done because you're gonna usually have a limited time. Because like, yeah, our friend Copel, he is in the Army. And so he only comes back to visit once every few years. And if he wants to do something like that, we're only going to have like maybe 4 or 5 hours total. So we can't sit there and make characters for 2 hours and then play. It's just not enough time. So, everyone has to kind of be ready ahead of time and then we just kind of get in and go. So it's doable. It usually, I like to think of those more as like, instead of like involved plot lines, I like to think it was just kind of like action adventure movies where you go in, you find out what's going on, you learn what your MacGuffin is, then you kill the bad guy and get your MacGuffin back. Whereas like campaigns, I think are, they should be more nuanced and the characters should grow over time. The plots should change according to the character's desires from like what the original plot is and moving on from it and things like that. So, yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions? We're gonna wrap up the show. We've pretty much hit. I mean,
yeah.
We're actually gonna fall just shy of the 2-hour mark. Which,
oh wow, it's a short one.
Yeah. Probably because we actually had a subject to roll with. All right. Let's plug your show one more time. What do we got?
So, check out The Wilderness, Soundscapes for Tabletop Gaming on Kickstarter. We're about 70% funded right now, and things are looking good. You can hear some demos out there. If you like what you hear, back us, and we've got a long road ahead of us planned for doing some premium audio for tabletop games.
I'm excited, especially as somebody who I like to consider myself somebody who's somewhat of an audiophile. When I love plugging stuff in. So when I hear something like 5.1 surround sound soundscapes, the cool thing is I also think that it can also be used beyond that too.
Oh
like if you just want ambient sound in your house that you want to relax to.
I can't work without music. It makes sense to have it for other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really cool idea. Get out there, drop a few bucks on it. Help support this cause. It is really cool. I think a lot of we've already got 2 people here who are fully for it, who are DMs in their own right.
Yep.
So, get out there, drop a few bucks, support something that's awesome. And Scott, thank you for coming out, man.
Yeah, thanks.
I appreciate you hanging out.
Yeah.
For the Nerd Effect podcast, we are
Michael Morgan,
Mason Ireland,
Nikki Prindle.
And Scott Morton for today.
Yes. And I am Dustin Vancouver. We'll catch you guys again next week when we'll have a Sweet Mother of Moses. And so I don't know how we got the whole show without even mentioning it once.
Tomorrow's
Oh
going
my
to be the
God.
greatest day
No,
of
I
my
mentioned the TARDIS
life.
once when we were talking about Spelljammer. I mentioned
That's
you
true.
wanted
You
a
did.
blue phone box shaped.
And I
face.
refrained
Oh.
from derailing, and you're welcome.
Anyway, tomorrow the four of us will be at the theatrical showing of Mason. This son of a bitch decided to go ahead and watch it ahead of time.
Hey,
Don't say words. No, just stop talking.
I'm not going to mention anything about it.
I will murder you so
I'm
hard.
just saying, I had another friend, Nomi, who couldn't make it on Monday, and she needed to watch it, and she doesn't have cable, so my house was their best option. So what? I mean, I could start mentioning.
I murder.
I do have to say though, one thing.
No, you don't.
It will not ruin it for anyone. I promise. However, the best special effect in it was Matt Smith's wig. You couldn't tell.
I've seen pictures. It did look pretty good.
So anyway, we'll have a full
Can't believe you watched it
nerd
twice.
orgy on next Sunday's show, and it's just going to be a whole bunch of, oh my God, I'm sure.
We've been holding this one in for months
I
now.
don't even
I
think
know.
we're going to be able to vocalize correctly. It's just going to be
No.
grunts and squeals.
There will be no enunciation in
No.
the next podcast.
Scott, here's a Doctor Who version. He
Aww.
wants to get into it, and I told him,
It's amazing.
Just start
Well,
with
I was
Eccleston.
scared. I didn't know where to start. 'Cause it's
Eccleston.
got such a long running history.
I started with the Rito and then
I was
went
like,
back and watched stuff, and
that's
that seemed to be a
exactly
good way to
what
do
I
it.
told him. Just start with the new incarnation.
Yeah, just start with the new
Yeah.
incarnation, starting with Eccleston.
Make yourself get through the Eccleston's
Yeah.
season, and then you're fine.
Okay.
I had to force my girlfriend to watch the first season of the Redo because it was just, and Dustin's gonna just be angry with me. But it was
I
pretty
like the
bad.
first season. I like Eccleston as the Doctor.
I liked him as the
He's-
Doctor, but the production values are really low.
So, somebody actually said it on Facebook. I think it was a guy named Will. He's just starting to watch Doctor Who. He just finished Eccleston's season, and he's like, I like Eccleston's character. His Doctor's very much come at me, bro.
yeah,
You know?
it kind of
Yeah.
is.
And
But
so
you can definitely tell when they get a budget.
Yeah. You can tell, like, after, like, the first little bit of Tenet, and they get a budget increase because of how well it's doing.
yeah, like the third season is about where that
Yeah.
kicks in.
The most recent
So-
season looks like it was directed by J.J. Abrams. It's just lens flares and shiny things everywhere.
Yeah.
Compared to
Compared to,
Eccleston. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny.
yeah.
But-
If you end up really liking Doctor Who, go back and watch some of the old stuff.
It is. It's worth watching.
Worth watching, but
Not a good way to get into
It is a hard
way
watch.
to get into it. And also,
It's like with Star Trek.
yeah.
If you're trying to get someone into Star Trek, you wouldn't make them watch the
Start with-
Shatner years.
Yeah, start
like,
with TNG.
year.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of like because they started in the 60s, and a lot of that stuff in the 50s and 60s that we now consider camp was the best they could do with special effects and the budgets they had at the time. And Doctor Who is right up that alley.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to know going in that they're not intentionally being campy. That's what they had to work with back then.
It was
So,
good at the time.
It was good at the time,
Yeah.
yeah. But some of it's a little hard to watch. But so start out with Eccleston, go through the new stuff first, and then if you decide you like it, go back and watch some of the older stuff.
And the nice thing about Netflix is they have it separated for you.
Yes.
So you have Doctor
Hulu
Who
too now. Hulu's got them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also separated in the same fashion.
Yeah. And if you
Because they know.
if you have Amazon Prime, I think you can get up now through 7/1 in Amazon Prime for free. And then 7/2 you can buy the episodes, like $2 or $3 a piece, I think is what it is.
Cool.
So,
I will check it out.
you
So we said
must.
like goodbye like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we got Doctor Who.
But then we
It's
got
true.
Doc- then we-
Well, let's save it though, because we're gonna Doctor Who the crap out of ourselves
Yeah.
tomorrow.
yeah.
All right, guys. We'll
And
see.
next
We need to
Sunday.
go to bed early enough that I don't fall asleep in the middle of the 50th tomorrow.
Yes.
If you fall asleep, two things will happen. One, I will poke you in the ribs to make sure that you wake back up. And two, I won't let you live it down,
Yeah.
especially during the podcast.
So.
So buy a soda, have caffeine.
Yeah, I'm gonna caffeinate.
Okay.
Hey, Nikki,
Huh.
I'll get you a rock star.
I
Come
don't
to the
like rock
dark
stars.
side.
You can get one of the Java monsters.
The Java monsters are good.
Oh, okay.
I'll drink one of those.
First studio I worked at, we had something in the fridge called Chinese rocket fuel.
Oh,
Ooh, I'm listening.
I
Wow.
never had
Yeah.
one. I was too scared.
Wow.
Like that was the label on
was
it?
called
Like,
Chinese rocket fuel. I don't even remember who made it.
sounds horribly racist and dangerous at the same time.
Yeah.
Yet in some weird way, awesome.
I know.
Sounds like something you'd have to order off the internet as a novelty item because they don't make it anymore because it killed people with caffeine.
It made their urine glow in the dark.
Nuka Quantum. What?
What?
Sorry, Fallout reference.
Okay.
Anyway, we're gonna end the show now. We'll see you guys on the other side of the TARDIS on Sunday, and it'll be amazing. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna do my damnedest to do some filming. So we're gonna try and actually utilize our YouTube channel for once without just reposting podcasts. So prepare for something hopefully awesome sometime this week. I'm gonna try and
Yeah, we'll see.
I have a little mic rig that plugs into my Android, so we'll use that as a voice recorder. And I'm hopefully getting one of these kind people to maybe film it while we interview some.
It's the side of the camera I prefer to be on.
Yeah. Oh, good. So you just volunteered. Excellent.
Okay.
Wait, I was going to volunteer.
Oh, no, you're the cutest of us, Nikki. You gotta be on the other side of the
Oh,
camera.
dear God, by whose standards? I thought we decided you were the pretty one.
Oh, that's right. Damn it.
So we'll try and interview some people in line, ask some fan questions, and just, like, who's your favorite Doctor? And if I have the balls, I will try and get everybody to hum the Doctor Who song at once and
Or
try and get it on
sing.
camera. There's no lyrics, though. So you have to go, ooh-wee. Well, I guess by humming, I mean, yeah, make the sounds. But,
Sing it pretty.
yeah. So anyway, for nerdeffect.com, for those about to nerd, we salute you.